All right, so lots of brush here I've been trimming, and with good reason. I was getting tired of it. Everything was growed up with this stuff, these trees. Yeah. So I bought me something to deal with that the other day because I just got tired of this. And I'm going to show it to you here in just a minute. So we'll get started on that right after this. Welcome back. If you haven't seen my videos before, I'm Rusty Oliver Man. This is a bunch of crap, tree tops and stuff that was growing, got out of control. Probably about 4 or 5 years ago, whenever Grandma got sick, that kind of became a full-time gig of dealing with all the stuff that went with that. And a lot of stuff around here got neglected for, number one, tree trimming and yard work and stuff like that. So, anyway, I got the idea the other day I wouldn't mind to have some chickens and stuff again, but I need to get all my pins and stuff ready to go and trim all this crap out of there so that they actually stay where they're supposed to be. And with that, of course, comes building repairs and different things that have gotten damaged from just not having time to deal with it. Also, tree limbs were growing around like the grain bin in places I'm sure you've seen in videos, getting tangled up in the electric lines, and I just had enough the other day. So I bought me something to make that go away. Now, before I show it to you, I want you to pay close attention. If you hear the sound of my voice, you cannot borrow this. I don't care who you are, family or friend or whatever. This is not available for loan. I bought it for myself to use, so don't even ask, because I'm not going to let you borrow it. And I'm not coming over to trim your stuff with it. You can go to town and buy your own. So with that said, I'll show it to you. And that is this HT 131 pole saw. Yes. I looked up different models trying to decide what I wanted. And I thought I was going to get an HT 135, which I think is the replacement model for this. But when I went into the store and asked about it, they said, well, we sell more of these HT 131s, or they probably can't anymore, because I noticed it doesn't show up in this year's product catalog. But he said the biggest reason was because of this way of telescoping. He said the old ones, or this HT 131, uses this simple knob clamp deal to telescope, and then you just tighten it. Of course, now it's not wanting to sit nicely for me while I demonstrate this. I guess because I extended it out and took more weight off of it. But anyway, you just turn that knob and then it slides. It's got a spring in there to kind of help you move it a little bit. The new ones, the HT 135, uses a twist collar on the thing. And he said they had a lot of trouble with that when it first came out, and I guess they even quit selling them for a long time with that design. And so, you know, when we were talking about it, he said he actually had just got one in, and, you know, I had the choice, I guess. And I ultimately decided on this one because it was a tried and true design. It also has it's a carbureted one. I think the new one had electronics in it, which I don't know about. I had a lot of people say that the electronic saws were really good, so maybe that's what I wanted. But this will not be something that gets used all the time, although I have used the heck out of it in these last few days. Because telescoping, see, it's supposed to cut up to 16 feet off the ground. What we figured is they're figuring in that you've got about a 5 to 6 foot reach while you're holding it, plus what it telescopes, because I think it was like 11 feet it telescopes. So that was the big feature for me, because I actually have another one of these and I just never liked it, and I'll show you what that is right now. So hanging up here in the rafters of failure is this pole saw, which I guess we can get down and compare. It's been hanging up here for years because I just don't really care for it, but we'll get it out and I'll show it to you. All right, I like how this little Cushman truck bed is also becoming a catch for crap, like everything else. But Cub Cadet pole saw. I cannot remember exactly the procedure that led me to get this. I know when I worked at the farm stores, when I bought that power head, I was either at an auction or someplace where I found a brand new pole saw attachment. And I thought, hey, that'd be super duper handy. However, I mean, it's just a tiny little bar. It's like a, what, an 8-inch bar? So, and it's rigid. It does not telescope. And I used it. It did not really run the best. It never really performed like I wanted it to. It was kind of underpowered, and it was hard to keep it running. And so I don't know. I mean, what's a guy do? I used it a few times, and then I thought finally it's just as easy to put the ladder in the loader or something and go up, because it doesn't really telescope that far. Or not, doesn't telescope at all, but it doesn't really reach that far. It's basically the same as what that is without the telescoping feature. I'm trying to get the specs pulled up here on my phone, so maybe we can compare slightly better. Specifications. Okay. So right away I can tell you, if this one was 29 cc's, that new one is 36.3. So a little bit of a jump up there. And I think that works out to like almost 2 horsepower on that thing, which it is. You can tell it's got power. That's what I like about it. It runs super smooth. And this other one never did that. It was just a pain all the way around. The dinky little bar here, I never was impressed with it. It's kind of flimsily built. And if I recall correctly, inside of there is a cable, and that's what drives it. Whereas this one has a spline shaft in there, I believe, and it telescopes on that. And so it's a much more positive drive system. You don't lose as much power through that solid shaft as you do through a cable. This one has a 14-inch bar, I believe is what this is. And that's the 3/8 Pico chain. And I wasn't sure, you know, what I really wanted. I think you could even get a 16-inch bar for this, but I found using this that's plenty. It works great. I mean, I can't complain. It's overly not that heavy for what it is. When you have it telescoped all the way out, it's kind of an awkward deal to use, because you have to remember that as soon as it goes through the limb, you're going to have to stop it or catch it. And a good example of that I'll show you in a minute, where I trimmed like around the grain bin. I was on top of the grain bin and had it, and I was kind of hanging over the edge anyway. You had to be ready to help stop that, you know, when it went down. But it has really been, in the last few days, I mean, I've cut loads and loads and loads of stuff. It's just unbelievable how much stuff I've trimmed, and I'm still going to up there, because that's all going to go away. So yeah, but I've been able to by myself do more than I could used to with 2 people. You know, 1 person in a loader doing stuff. You can take down trees, you know, just if like on the roof, you don't want a big section to slam into your roof. You can just work your way down and cut sections out of it, and then let it get out of the way. And that's what I did around the electric lines. I cut, you know, I left maybe a foot or 2 over the electric line, cut it off so that when it dropped down, it wouldn't hit the line. Got that out of the way, and then I just started sawing, you know, about foot sections out, so that when it dropped, it would miss the line. It wouldn't be able to like hook on the line and touch the roof I was standing on. And by doing that, I think it was a pretty safe method of doing it, and it really worked good. So we'll go look at that, and I'll give you some idea of that. And then here in a minute, we'll fire it up and do some sawing and see it in action. But yeah, I can't This is one of the things I definitely am glad that I bought. I think it was around $700. I'm not exactly sure. I bought several other things that day, chains and things for the saws and files. I'll show you that in another video. So all kinds of different stuff. I think I probably spent $1,000 on everything. So, but I'm saying this is probably in the neighborhood of about $700, and it's worth every penny, I think, so far. So, yeah, if you are thinking about that, or you have any kind of property with trees, I definitely recommend one of these because it's been a good one. So, we'll go take a walk, and I'll show you that what I've done so far. All right, so now we're not judging my buildings. People rip me on the ricketiness of the buildings, but that's what was here. Just deal with it. But this tree was grown into this wire all over, and there was one. That one next to the grain bin was hanging over the bin and causing trouble, and it was driving me nuts. And the thing about this is that was frustrating. Years ago, when this was a smaller tree, I started to cut it down, and Grandpa just ripped me about it and said, "Don't cut down my trees. I've worked my whole life to have shade over where I'm working." And he said, "I don't want them cut down." Well, now here we are. They're huge trees, and they're getting into the electric lines and causing nothing but trouble, like I knew they would, because that is way too close to a building. I want that whole tree gone eventually, and what it amounts to is I'll have to rent that lift again, and then I can take this saw and work my way down and just keep going till, you know, there's nothing, and then it'll be fine. And then this one I can probably cut and lay out that way or whatever. It's far enough away from the building, it's not an immediate deal to worry about. The one next to the grain bin I really don't like. I wish it was gone, but I kind of got it trimmed far enough away. But I'm impressed with what I was able to do with that little pole saw, because I got, like I said, I got it all not near the wire at all anymore, and it was all tangled up in there. And it took a little bit of thinking about it first, because I didn't want to electrocute myself. Not saying that you would, because that wire is all covered. You shouldn't, you know, just something touching it for a second should not electrocute you, but you never know. You got to treat it like it's dangerous all the time, in case something would happen. And so I got as far as I could. That was pretty well my maximum reach where I got to. I want to try to come from the other way maybe and work on some of those others, but I think it'd be easier just to wait and rent that lift and then take it up in the air away from the building and just work on there. And I think I can make that happen. But it was really handy. You could cut that all up easy on the grain bin. I see a calf running, so that's nice. Escapee, go back where you came from. But not that I ever really filmed up in the air, because it was kind of shameful and I didn't really want to hear people complaining about it. But there were tree limbs all over that. I mean, hanging over the top, and it was miserable. Even when, like, you'd climb up the ladder, trees were hitting you in the back, limbs and stuff. So now we got lots of space. If I could shear off all these vines so you couldn't see, you know, that would all go away too. But everything's in the open now, and that's what we're after. And eventually, like I said, I think this tree is probably going to go away before I put that electric line back up that direction, because it was kind of always in these trees too. But when I had him take that down last year so I could fix all the roof and stuff, then yeah, that lets me be able to do this stuff like I'm doing right now in somewhat of safety. But what I'm saying is, when you're on the bottom rung of the roof, you know, and you're sticking way out over here and sawing, you still have to be careful, because if nothing else, what you don't want to happen is the saw slam into the roof and either damage the roof, or it would bend that pole, I think, if you had a hard enough impact. So you'd rather not have that, because then it wouldn't telescope anymore. So it was a little bit of just learning your limits of what you can safely do without hurting yourself or damaging anything. but I'm really impressed with what I was able to do. So yeah, you know what might ought be fun? Maybe we should try to start this one and compare. It has not run in probably 15 years. So is it even? I don't think it's not stuck. It's full of crap. We can throw a little fuel in this and see if it'll do anything, but I'm not pulling my guts out on it because its days are done. What I really didn't like about this was this is not really a dedicated machine. This is one of those where you could attach a weed eater, and I have all those attachments, like a straight shaft weed eater, and I think they made a curved shaft one. I think you could get one of those little rototiller mantis things, you know. So you had that. The other thing that I don't like about this, and at the time I thought, well, maybe that was what we wanted, is this is actually not a mix the gas and oil type of unit. This is a regular gas, and it's got a separate compartment for engine oil. And see, it shows you the you're supposed to take this plug out, which we can do right now to make sure before we mess with it that it actually has oil in it. But you would put regular oil. It's two separate compartments. I'm not sure that we have. I don't think we have. There, we got a little bit. So sure. And I don't remember what kind of oil it says to put in there, if it was 1540 that I was using or if it was straight 30. I think the newer lawnmowers are like those Cub Cadets were using 10W30, but yeah. All right, I'll get some regular gas and we'll pour some in here and we'll see if this thing will come to life at all, and we can do a comparison of the two. But I just never really was a fan of this. But let me go grab some regular gas and we'll see what happens. All right, the first time in years, I don't even remember how it goes. Press the primer 10 times. Well, we're done because the primer just self-destructed, and I don't think she'll run without that, because I think that pretty well has her licked. Of course, you know, immediately stuff like that would happen. I also noticed that the fuel lines broke off, so obviously I really was over it when we were done. So enough of that. I guess we're not going to compare, which is fine. I wasn't really excited about that, but I should probably fix this up and get rid of it, you know, get it to run again. See, there's a hose that's cracked. I might take that inside and mess with it and see if I can get it to run again, and then send it on its merry way if anyone would want one. But I'm telling you, it just don't have it. It just, for what I want to do, there was not enough reach, and this one has it. So I will get you mounted somewhere safe, I guess, where you can see what's happening and not get crushed by limbs. And that might be right here on the back of the little whatchamacallit. I will let you see it start though, because it's super easy if I can regulate you. Basically, since it's cold right now, I haven't even used the primer thing. I just put it on choke and pull it, and it usually has fired right up. Let me just, oh, okay, when you do that, it, see? One time, then it'll sit there and idle. So I'm sure that's because it's brand new, but still, it's pretty impressive. And it's got some, you know, actual power. So let me get you stuck to something here and you can watch what happens. right, so that's about enough of a sampling for you to see what I'm talking about. You kind of feel the burn after doing it for a while. And I've been using this for like 3 days straight. So I'm about due for a rest from it. But it does work excellent. It has power. I mean, they obviously have it figured out. I like, it's got a stop button right here. And what I find is they must have done their research about exactly where that needs to be, because there's times when I felt like it was getting away or the thing was going to fall, and just by my grip it pushed the button and shut it down. So it's naturally where you want to be. So I'm impressed with it. It cuts good, and I mean, you can't go wrong. Anything STIHL makes is excellent. I've loved everything I've owned from them, but this definitely is a good buy, as you can see, because I got a lot of maintenance to catch up on as far as tree cutting and, you know, stuff that just gets away from a guy. It doesn't take long. Some of these scrub trees seem like they just grow ridiculous amounts overnight. I mean, it seems like you just trimmed them and there they are again. So yeah, I mean, we're going to use the heck out of this. Let me rephrase that. I am going to use the heck out of this. No one else is going to use this. And that's the way it is. So I got plenty stuff to do here where this is well going to pay for itself, because I got to go all along, like the fence in the woods where we cut to make the path. I still want to cut up higher to make, there's places where there's limbs out that catch mufflers when you try to bush hog or whatever. I want that all gone. The edges of fields, there's plenty of places I could trim off low hanging branches. It's just gonna, now the only limiting factor is time. We got the equipment, we just need the time to do it and the energy to do it, because I'm one guy. And it's, yeah, sometimes it's hard to get everything done. And I just added more work, but I think this is gonna ultimately cut off some of the work and make it go quicker, because I could have fought with that other one and messed with it and climbed up in a loader and used it and whatever, and it still wouldn't have been near as good as this one. I would not have got all this done like I have already if I was using that other one, because halfway through I would have got frustrated and probably just thrown it off the top of the wherever I was at. So yeah, so if you need one, go down to your local dealer. Our dealer happens to be the deer dealer. It's the STIHL dealer, and maybe all the deer dealers are, I don't know. I know Rural King sells the stuff, so they probably have this. Or like I said, I think this is an old model that's not available anymore, and probably the replacement is the HT 135. But if you can find an HT 131, so far I've been a fan of it. I mean, it's got tried and true design in part of it compared to some of the older ones, and they just keep making them better. But as far as it goes, for what it cost, I think it's well worth it, because it's made short work and safe work of a lot of stuff that would have been, you know, more dangerous or taken a long time had I tried to figure out another way to do it. So that is definitely worth it. If you need one, I highly recommend. Do you enjoy seeing a basic white man in his middle 30s struggling at life? If so, hit that thumbs up and leave us a comment, because all of that stuff is supposed to help us out and grow the channel, and we can keep making more stuff like what you just saw. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.